Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula also giving an address to transport stakeholders in terms of the state of transport entities and the sector's contribution to the economic reconstruction and recovery. Let's take you there live.
Maritime was going to introduce who is here before I speak, but nonetheless I think that acknowledgement will be done. The Deputy Minister is running late. She's coming from KwaZulu-Natal. Nonetheless, she was supposed to be on time. She will then join us in the process. And thank you for those remarks from the Deputy Minister of Transport. Acting Director General, Tunzi Madia, and all officials of the Department of Transport present here today. When we assumed office in 2019, we made a firm commitment to transform the sector and implement tangible programs that will make a contribution towards realizing a better life for all South Africans. The onset of COVID-19 pandemic had a major disruptive effect, and the transport sector was severely affected. No mode of transport was spared, and all our entities were affected. We worked hard to put measures in place to cushion this impact and ensure that our public entities continue to render the critical services they are mandated to provide. The 5 strategic priorities, which form the bedrock of our strategic plan in the 6th administration, cut across the mandates of all our entities. These entities are the implementing arms of the department and exist to give expression to the National Transport Policy as encoded in the White Paper on National Transport Policy. The transport portfolio is made up of the department, its 13 public entities, and a trading account. The department's budget for the current financial year, as announced in February, budget is 66.7 billion, of which 65.3 billion constitutes transfers and subsidies. This translates to 98% of the department's budget channeled through our entities, provinces, private enterprises, and other entities to advance the implementation of the department's mandate. Private enterprises funded by the department are bus companies that benefit from public transport subsidies. Other entities include organizations such as the National Sea Rescue Institute, NSRI, the Mountain Club of South Africa, and the South African National Taxi Council, SANTACO. This picture demonstrates the need for a very tight alignment between the oversight responsibility of the department and the actual implementation driven by entities. There must always be a direct line of sight between the strategic priorities in the department's strategic plan, the ministerial targets in the performance agreement of the minister, and the plans of the entities. It is important to note that since we came into office, we have been emphatic in our message of good governance as a golden thread that must permeate through all our activities. The Auditor General has noted improvement in governance across our entities, while raising concerns about emerging risks in entities such as Artia, and the ongoing concern and the going concern issue in respect of Sandra as a consequence of delays in making the final decision on e-tolls. That decision on e-tolls will be made. The minister will speak to that in February. We had agreed that he will do that in the midterm budget speech. It is quite clear in terms of the decision, consultation process from the side of Treasury have not been finalized. And by the time we get to February budget, the minister will speak on that particular matter, and we would have gone to cabinet to endorse whatever we would have agreed to with the minister. Cabinet will have to take it as its decision. So the announcement that will be made in the February budget will be a cabinet decision by the Minister of Finance. So there have been delays with regard to this, and delays are informed partly because the decision we've got to make either way have got financial implications, and those financial implications we need to respond to. Whilst we address another problem, we don't open a hole on the other side, and that is what is important. Now, the people we're borrowing from, we engage with them. They said to us, look, whether you scrap or you do anything, how we get our money, it will be your decision. But you need to make any decision with regard to that matter. So we don't have a bigger challenge in relation to that from the point of view of our lenders. But how it affects us, it is a matter that Treasury is dealing with that in terms of South Africa's standing and the borrowing broadly going forward. The number of entities that have achieved clean audit has increased from 4 to 5. The other 5 entities achieved unqualified with findings audit outcomes, while the remaining 4 audits are still pending. The Auditor General has observed that the entities who are doing well to create stability and drive clean administration is CBRTA, SACA, DLCA, RSR, and Ports Regulator. And this needs to translate. You can clap for that. And this needs to translate to a correlation between clean administration and quality service delivery in the portfolio. Incurring irregular expenditure remains a source for concern. The AG noted that PRASA, AXA, and Sandral were the main contributors to irregular expenditure. PRASA's irregular expenditure amounts to 742 million rands, while Sandral and AXA have incurred 175 million rands and 282 million in irregular expenditure, respectively. In respect of fruitless and wasteful expenditure, AXA was the largest contributor to the tune of 75.9 million rands, followed by PRASA at 15.3 million rands and RTMC at 7.4 million rands. Strengthening our capacity to deliver quality service to the citizenry requires of the department and its entities to ensure that professionals with requisite skills, qualifications, and drive are recruited. The recruitment and other career incidents of employees are the responsibility of the board. The board, therefore, has a responsibility to ensure that labor laws and internal policies are followed to the letter when dealing with career incidents of employees. A number of key policy developments intended to enhance our service delivery agenda and give the Khawuleza ethos practical expression across the sector. Key among these is the economic regulation, of Transport Bill, which is currently before Parliament. Its promulgation will transform the face of the industry and make decisive interventions to level the playing field and allow for greater economic participation by SMMEs. The transport economic regulator that will be established will aggressively drive interventions that will ensure competitiveness of the sector and lower barriers to entry to sectors that have historically been a preserve of the few. The competitiveness of our ports remains one of the key strategic drive of economic growth that will be given impetus by this policy direction. The monopolies in rail not only negatively affect competitiveness, but also stifle efficiencies in both freight and passenger rail. The resolution of outstanding issues between PRASA and Transnet, which mainly relate to access to each other's network, will find a speedy resolution. While economic regulation is not a new function, it is currently fragmented along modal lines. The consolidation of economic regulation under a single institutional arrangement will ensure effectiveness. Entities such as the Port Regulator, the Regulating Committee established in terms of the Airports Company Act, will be immediately affected by the promulgation of the law, as these entities will fold into the economic regulator. The new economic regulation institutional framework will also impact on the mandates of entities such as the International Air Services Licensing Council, the Air Services Licensing Council, the Railway Safety Regulator, the National Public Transport Regulator, and the South African National Roads Agency Limited. Now, coming to maritime sector, inefficiencies in container freight, rail and port services raise the cost of South Africa's imports and make the country's exports less competitive. To address this, we are working closely with the Minister of Public Enterprise in implementing a number of structural reforms. Most notable is the establishment of the National Ports Authority as an independent subsidiary of Transnet, which will undoubtedly improve competitiveness of our ports and boost investor confidence. You will have seen sometime this year, myself, Minister Gordon, and the President, we unveiled this and its implementation. And this will increase a big potential for our ports, particularly Durban, and bring us to the spot that we're at in terms of the African continent and globally. South Africa's 2,800 kilometers long coastline requires significant resources and capacity to service the country's obligations to the International Maritime Organization. An internal study of the department has indicated that at least 9 tugboats are required to service South Africa's coastline and waters. The South African Maritime Safety Authority, SAMSA, was established to advance South Africa's maritime interest, which include ensuring the safety of life and property at sea, as well as preventing and combating pollution of the marine environment. SAMSA is expected to increase its expenditure at an average annual rate of 3.6% from 531.2 million in 2021 to 590.8 million in 2023-2024. Revenue is generated by levies, fees, and user charges, which are expected to increase at an average annual rate of
1 2 1 2 1 2 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 1 2 3 4
Hello? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. SAMSA is experiencing challenges, ladies and gentlemen, both at board and operational level. For a number of years, SAMSA has operated without a CEO. The board has expedited the process to recruit a CEO, and we hope to finalize this matter during the course of 2022. The SAMSA audit is yet to be completed by the Auditor General. On the Ports Regulator of South Africa, the Ports Regulator of South Africa was established to regulate South Africa's commercial ports by considering tariff increases of the National Ports Authority and regulating the provision of adequate, affordable and efficient port services and facilities. This includes hearing complaints and appeals aimed at ensuring fairness, transparency and competitive practices in the port system. The ports regulator improved its audit outcome from an unqualified audit with findings to a clean audit. Road sector. With an allocation of 104.3 billion over the period ahead, the department's road transport program facilitates activities related to the maintenance of South Africa's national and provincial road network. The South African National Roads Agency, SANRAL, plays a crucial role in programs related to upgrading, maintaining and strengthening national toll and non-toll roads. Transfers to SANRAL account for 31% of the department's budget and 62.2% of the department's budget for the road transport program. A core focus over the MTF period is the R573, better known as Moloto Road, which is allocated 2.7 billion rand. Transfers to fund reduced tariffs for the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project amount to 2 billion rand over the medium term. So whatever you do, we need to get money somewhere in terms of the e-tolls. So it's not an easy decision you scrap and then you go away. It is not like that. It's not how it is simple. It has been simplified over the years. So the beautiful roads you're traveling in terms of reducing congestion, particularly in Gauteng, is as a result of these particular interventions. So when we take a different approach, it will also affect how we are going to fund road maintenance and upgrading of roads in South Africa going into the future. So the funding model must also be considered. So it's not a decision that the Minister of Transport arrived at unilaterally without Treasury, and that is why Treasury is important in relation to this decision with regard to the e-tolls. So you pay for the beautiful roads you see and you are traveling on and so on. So when you protest that and you attack me on Twitter that I must stop talking certain things and fix potholes, you must understand where does the resources come to fix those potholes and improve our road infrastructure in the country. While 53.6% or 34.8 billion rand of allocation to SANRAL are to maintain the national network of non-toll roads. The maintenance of provincial roads is largely funded through the Provincial Roads Maintenance Grant with an allocation of 37.5 billion rand over the medium term. The 22,253 kilometers of our national road network that SANRAL is responsible for plays a critical role as a primary network in enabling economic activity, linking the economic hubs of our provinces with regional and international markets. This is complemented by the secondary and tertiary road networks that enable access to centers of economic activity and social infrastructure and amenities for our communities. More than 76% of land freight is hauled on our roads, accounting for 73.8% of total land freight income. This reality places a heavy burden on our road network and requires significant resources for maintenance and rehabilitation. Our objective to migrate 10% of road freight to rail is meant to alleviate this pressure and preserve the longevity and pristine nature of our national road network. SANRAL, therefore, has a key role to play in enabling this shift from road to rail and must work with the department and other organs of state to realize this. Our target to achieve a 25% reduction of fatalities on our roads by 2024 requires closer collaboration and creative solutions. It is therefore imperative in the execution of our role as a champion for the North-South corridor of the African Union, SANRAL has a key responsibility to lead the charge, working with fellow African countries and state agencies to drive the roads agenda. SANRAL is therefore working towards developing and strengthening partnerships with countries in SADC region and across the continent to advance sustainable road infrastructure development. SANRAL will continue to pursue opportunities to assist and build the capacity of other road authorities on the continent by providing commercial engineering advisory and commercial services. Through this collaboration, projects have been realized with African roads authorities in Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe. The overall audit outcome of SANRAL has remained unchanged as financially unqualified opinion with findings during the last 4 years. The Cross-Border Road Transport Agency, CBRTA, was established to improve the cross-border flow of passenger and freight transport operators and regulate market access. As a self-funded entity, the agency's primary source of revenue is permit fees. Revenue is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 12.4% from 217 million in 2021-2022 to 307.9 million in 2023-2024. We must commend the CBRTA for achieving a clean audit in the 2020-2021 audit outcomes. The driving license card account, DLCA, is a trading account responsible for manufacturing driving license cards based on orders received from driving license testing centers across South Africa. Expenditure is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 3.7% from 201.3 million in 2021 to 224.5 million rands in 2023-2024. Spending on production and infrastructure accounts for 72.8% or 486 million of its total expenditure. The entity generates revenue through the sale of driving license cards Revenue is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 11.5% from 202.2 million rands in 2020-2021 to 280.1 million rands in 2023-2024. We must commend the DLCA for achieving a clean audit in the 2020-2021 audit outcomes. The Road Accident Fund is mandated to compensate South African road users for losses or damages caused by motor vehicle accidents within the borders of South Africa. The fund derives its revenue from the fuel levy. Revenue from the fuel levy is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 5.8% from 38.1 billion in 2020-2021 to 45.2 billion rand in 2023-2024. Claims against the fund have increased at an average annual rate of 8.4% from 61.3 billion in 2017-2018 to 78.2 billion in 2022-2021, and are expected to increase to 102.9 billion by 2023-2024. As a result, the accumulated deficit is expected to increase from 367.7 billion rand in 2021 to 518.7 billion in 2023-2024. The Auditor General is yet to conclude the RAF audit. The Road Traffic Infringement Agency was established to administer procedures that discourage the contravention of road traffic laws by enforcing penalties and providing community awareness programs. With the rollout of the Administrative Adjudication of Road Traffic Offences Act, ARTO, the role of RTI in ensuring that we arrest fatalities on our roads and achieve our 25% target by 2024 will be central. Expenditure is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 14.9% from 316.2 million 2020-2021 to 479.1 million by 2023-2024. The agency derives its revenue mainly through administrative penalties and departmental transfers. Revenue is expected to increase in line with expenditure due to the planned increase in transfers from the department to implement the national rollout of ARTO. The Auditor General is yet to conclude the RTIA audit. RTMC, the Road Traffic Management Corporation, was established to provide national road traffic strategic planning and law enforcement and pool public sector resources for provision of road traffic management. The overall audit outcome of the RTMC has remained unqualified with findings on compliance and no findings on the audit of predetermined objectives. Expenditure is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 11.7% from 1.1 billion in 2020-2021 to 1.6 billion in 2023-2024, mainly due to operational expansions relating to the electronic National Traffic Information System and the road traffic law enforcement training. As a result, spending on operations and law enforcement is expected to account for 42.6% or 2 billion rand of expenditure over the period ahead. Revenue is mainly generated through transaction fees from the electronic National Traffic Information System, INATIS, and transfers from the department. Total revenue is expected to increase in line with expenditure, mainly driven by significant increases in collections from road traffic infringement fees and user charges related to the INATIS We are hard at work in ensuring that the RTMC is able to fulfill its mandate as articulated in its founding legislation. Key amongst our intervention is the consolidation of the traffic management value chain, which includes ensuring a seamlessly integrated business process at the driving license testing centers and the transfer of driving license card account to the RTMC. The audit outcome for the RTMC is unqualified with findings. Rail sector. Transfers to the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, PRASA, in the rail transport program account for an estimated 27.2% or 57 billion rand of the department's budget over the period ahead. However, the agency has struggled for many years to roll out its modernization program, which is meant to improve the reliability of services and increase the number of passengers. The modernization program entails focused spending on repairs and the maintenance as part of the agency's rolling stock fleet renewal program, as well as improved security. Delays in the rolling stock fleet renewal program, along with poor spending on rail infrastructure and the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, specifically lockdown restrictions, necessitated the reprioritization of funds to support other entities in the transport sector. Following a prolonged period of instability, we have recently appointed a permanent board of control, which is leading the intensified implementation of PRASA's modernization program. Over the medium term, capital transfers to PRASA are expected to increase at an average annual rate 164.3% from 700 million in 2020 to 2021 to 12.9 billion in 2023-2024. To offset revenue loss during the COVID-19 lockdown, operational transfers were temporarily increased in 2020-2021, accommodated by reduction to capital budgets. However, as we revert to normal operators over the medium term, operational transfers to the agency are expected to decrease at an average annual rate of 5% from 8.8 billion rand in 2020-2021 to 7.5 billion in 2023-2024. PRASA continues to grapple with capacity challenges, which manifests itself in its inability to accelerate spending on its capital program. Minister of Finance, when I met with him, he said to me, give me a guarantee that you'll be able to spend capex at PRASA. I said, I'm coming, and I'm still coming back to him. Because this is what the board and the executives of PRASA, in terms of our compact, they are supposed to produce. I'm sure captains of industry here will tell a story about PRASA. GO contracts are still not issued. Companies are closing down because PRASA is not doing what it's supposed to do. People are not paid on time. I've got a lot of complaints. People who got contracts, they were given jobs, they rendered services at PRASA, they are not being paid. How will you sustain a company if you are in the rail sector that doesn't pay you for your services? Now, these are some of the challenges that we need to address at PRASA. The group has spent 32% or 62.2 billion of its budgeted capital to date. Indeed, there are many factors that contribute to the slow spending, which include protracted procurement processes. While PRASA is struggling to spend its capital budget, on the one hand, it is facing a cash flow crisis in relation to its operational budget. The general overhaul program aimed at maintaining the current trains has experienced long delays over time due to procurement delays. However, the procurement process for this program is nearing finalization. This will contribute significantly in stimulating local job creation in the sector and achieving quicker turnaround times in returning damaged coaches to service. Delays in finalizing the infrastructure upgrades in the central line in Cape Town have a knock-on impact on the planned return to service of commuter rail in this critical corridor. Despite the Cape Town High Court granting PRASA an order to remove all illegal settlements on the central line, resettlement of the people who have illegally occupied the rail reserve is experiencing big challenges. Similarly, the deep port modernization program has been slightly delayed due to litigation on some of the finalized appointment. PRASA has had 2 successive adverse audit outcomes, been in 2018-2019 and 2019-2020 financial years. The 2020-2021 audit is yet to be completed by the Auditor General. The Auditor General is yet to conclude the PRASA audit. The Rail Safety Regulator was established to oversee and promote safe railway operations by providing an enabling national regulatory framework while monitoring and enforcing compliance in the rail sector. We must commend the Railway Safety Regulator for achieving a clean audit in 2020-2021 audit outcomes. Now I'm coming to aviation sector. I start first with the Air Traffic and Navigation Services Company, referred to as ATNS. Was established to provide safe, orderly and efficient air traffic navigational and associated services to the air traffic management community. And in accordance with the standards set out by the International Civil Aviation Organization, expenditure is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 3.6% from 1.5 billion rand in 2020-2021 to 1.7 billion in 2023-2024. This relatively low increase is due to the implementation of cost containment and cash preservation measures following the decrease in air travel as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Revenue is derived mainly from aerodrome and route and approach fees and is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 33.9% from 660.7 million in 2021 to 1.6 billion in 2023-2024. This sharp increase is mainly due to the sharp decrease in revenue 2020-2021 because of COVID-19 travel restrictions, with air traffic operations expected to begin normalizing over the period ahead. The audit outcome for ATNS is unqualified with findings. AXA, the airports company South Africa, owns and operates 9 principal South African airports, including OR Tambo International Airport, Cape Town International Airport, and Kinshasa International Airport. Although passenger numbers fell to 10.6 million in 2020-2021 due to the decrease in air travel because of COVID-19 travel restrictions, a recovery is expected to translate to an increase to 13.9 million in 2023-2024. Expenditure is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 3.3% from 6 billion rand in 2020-2021 to 6.6 billion rand in 2023-2024. The borrowing plan over the medium term focuses on addressing liquidity pressures in the short term and financing a capital expenditure program of 1 billion rand per year. As a result of the decrease in air travel, revenue in 2021 decreased by 49.1% from the 2019-2020 levels. This is expected to improve over the period ahead as the company anticipates revenue to increase at an average annual rate of 14% from 4.2 billion in 2020 to 6.2 billion in 2023-2024. The audit outcome for AXA is unqualified with findings on compliance with legislation. The South African Civil Aviation Authority was established to enforce safety standards in the civil aviation industry. Expenditure is expected to increase at average annual rate of 9% from 632.9 million rand in 2020-2021 to 820.3 million in 2023-2024. The authority is expected to spend 205 million rand over the period ahead on the replacement of the flight inspection aircraft and the flight calibration equipment. The authority generates most of its revenue through passenger safety charges, user fees, and the aviation fuel levy. Revenue is expected to increase at an average annual rate of 23.3% from 437.3 million in 2020-2021 to 820.3 million in 2023-2024. This significant increase is due to the expected recovery in air passenger travel over the medium term after the sharp decrease in passenger numbers in 2020-2021 as a result of COVID-19 travel restrictions. We must also commend SACA for achieving a clean audit in the 2020-2021 audit outcomes. The Acting Director General, Mr. Madia, will take you through a detailed presentation on the state of our public entities and the interventions we seek to make. Thank you very much.